Alrighty, welcome to Coding with Jess, and we are live, where you get to code along with me while I work on a thing. So, today we're going to be continuing working on the Noosphere simulator. So I figured before we jump into writing some code, which is what we're going to do together today, I would spend a couple minutes walking through a couple things. One, what is Noosphere? Two, why am I interested in it? Three, what am I building? And then we'll talk about what we built last week, what I've worked on over the last week since then, and then what we're going to work on today. So quick intro though, if this is your first time on Coding with Jess, we're going to work for 2 hours divided into 4 25-minute Pomodoros with 5-minute breaks in between. So 25 minutes focused work, 5-minute break, walk away from the computer, walk outside, smell nature, enjoy the changing seasons of fall if you happen to be in the northern hemisphere, and then back to it for 25 more minutes. So 2 hours total. I don't expect you to necessarily hang out for this whole thing, but I will talk like this while we're doing work the whole time. I'll also potentially go to the whiteboard and do some stuff there, and yeah, that kind of stuff. So other things to know, if you are in the YouTube chat, which I see Brent and Michael. Hey guys, I do try to watch the YouTube chat and interact with folks there, so feel free to chat along there. And I think that's pretty much it. Let's jump in. So, as I was mentioning, let me go ahead and set our first Pomodoro timer, because I think we're going to have, this will probably take a little bit to get through this stuff. Okay, so what is Noosphere? So we mentioned last week we started working on understanding what Noosphere is and specifically the underlying technologies and the way that they kind of all fit together. So Noosphere is a protocol for sharing notes and linking together notes across different corpuses or different notebooks, that kind of stuff. And the generic idea, or the general idea, is that I can publish my notes in some way such that other people can read them, link to them. I can link between notes and that kind of stuff, and sort of kind of create a multiplayer knowledge graph. So in the same way that you might be using Obsidian or Logseq or Bear or whatever, and you might have links between your notes within your smaller sort of note-taking system, Noosphere is a protocol for allowing you to do those kind of links across knowledge graphs. So I could deep link into Brent's notes or deep link into Michael's notes, and that so that's exciting to me. So Noosphere is made of a bunch of like underlying technologies, but I want to get to those in a second. I want to kind of talk about what Noosphere is and then why I'm excited about it. Number two, so why do I care? One, I've been using sort of taking notes digitally and on paper for many years, and I've found that practice to be super helpful. But one of the challenges that I've seen in sort of note-taking right now is how do we actually do sort of multiplayer sense making, or that's a fancy way of saying how do we share the things that are in our notes with others, and how do we reference the things that are in others' notes when we're taking our own writing. So how could I possibly transclude some of Brent's notes into some of my own notes? So the promise of what Noosphere offers is very interesting to me, and then the underlying technologies are interesting as well. So that's why I'm interested in Noosphere. Is I think it is a credible option for sharing and publishing and interlinking notes across different corpuses. Brent asks, how is Noosphere's linking ability any different than HTML? That is a really good question. Trying to decide if I want to get to that right now. Michael mentions that I think one of the features is the persistence of the addressing. So one of the big building blocks of Noosphere is that all content on Noosphere, all notes, are content addressed, as opposed to location addressing. So HTML, and I think by what you really mean, Brent, beyond HTML, is you probably mean HTTP, of like, where would you store this HTML, in other words. And so if you mean like stored on web servers using HTTP, HTTP is location-based addressing versus content-based addressing. So we could kind of go into some of the distinctions there. One thing to note is the if you were to use HTML with Noosphere, I mean, you could absolutely use HTML with Noosphere. So that's one of the things we'll talk about today that's exciting about Noosphere as well, is that as a protocol, it is file format agnostic. It does think in terms of files, although I suppose you could put arbitrary bags of data underneath each Noosphere memo, which is like one of the core data things. But Brent says, I have some ideas here, but I think it's worth explaining because linking is something we're already really good at. And yes, HTTP, not HTML. Excellent point. And I think one of the things that Noosphere is trying to introduce, Brent, when it comes to linking is leveraging the good that we have from HTML links and trying to not get away from, but try to solve for the problem of link rot. So I have lots and lots of links from the last 20 years that I've been on the internet, many of which are now dead, right? They link to content that used to live there. It either no longer lives there or it no longer lives on the web at all. That server might be gone. I really lament, actually, when I first got on the internet when I was in my early teens, so this would have been I was born in 82, so this would have been like 96, 97, 98. I had a directory, much like many of us did who used like local ISPs. I had my local ISP, and then I had like a slash tilde tmart. My father's name is Tony, so our directory was named after his first letter, last name, slash tilde tmart. And I had websites that I built in the early and in the mid 90s, and I stored them there on the internet. They are long gone. They're gone from my hard drives. They're gone from the internet. And so this is one of the things that that distinguishes Noosphere is it's using a set of technologies that would allow the content to live forever and allow the content to live forever at a place where it can always be found, using an addressing technique that can always be found. But that's a great first question. And it is another reason why I am excited to work with Noosphere, because it allows for content to live on, and which I think we need with things like notes. Okay, yeah, keep the questions coming in chat. So what is Noosphere? We've already covered that just a little bit. We're going to get more into the details of like how does Noosphere work, right? So I've kind of covered like what is Noosphere at the high level. We'll talk about how it works kind of the rest of the time, why I'm excited about it, and then let's talk about what are we building today. So the excuse me, the thing we're building today is, and that I've been working on, is what I'm calling a Noosphere simulator. And what this is, the gist of the simulator is it's intended to be a build in order to learn project that allows me to learn how Noosphere works, and specifically how it works, all the different underlying pieces. And as I'm building this sort of simulation of Noosphere at large in a browser, I'm hoping to learn how each of the individual pieces works. And how they interact with one another. So it's very much this is not intended to be a production system. This is more like, you can think of this as more like closer to an interactive textbook, or like a model of Noosphere that you could like poke at. Like there's, I have in my mind like a picture of like the models of the planets, where you have the sun, the model of the solar system, where you like have the sun, and then whatever the first planet is after the sun, and then Earth, and then all the other, Venus, that kind of stuff. And you can see how they're rotating around the sun. That's what we're building. We're building the model. It's not the real thing. The map is not the territory. We're not actually building out a replacement for Noosphere. We're building a simulation of Noosphere. And we're building it all to work inside of a browser so that we can build some sort of user interface or view on top of those different components and see how they work together. Right now, what it looks like is this, which is like a little Noosphere simulator. You have spheres, which we'll talk about what spheres are in Noosphere. You have Bob, you can click into one of these. You can get this at noosphere-sim.netlify.app. It's also linked from the GitHub repo, which I think both of those are linked from my Twitter, if I can't drop links into YouTube chat. So yeah, then you can link inside of a notebook. Once you're inside of Bob's notebook, you can see that there's a series of notes. I can click one of those notes, and then I can see the content of that note. I can also see that this content has a CID, or a content address, a content ID, and the note itself has a CID. This is actually the CID for the memo, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is a visualization of the memo, and we'll talk about that as well as we kind of go through it. But yeah, you can go back up to Bob's notebook, and then the only other feature that this has right now is you can add new notes in the browser. So I could add note content addressing libs forever. So content addressed note can be found at the same location or CID for as long as it shall live. And then, yes, cool. By the way, I had to do some trickery to get this auto-expanding text area to work. There's some clever CSS that's making this happen. If you want to go look at the CSS, I think it's actually kind of interesting. Totally aside from from Noosphere, but it was very important to me that like this look and feel good. And so anyway, auto-expanding text areas. Not that that is what we're learning today, but so yeah, I can click add note. Now I have this content addressing lives forever, and you can see that that now has its own CID for the memo and another CID for the content. Here's the content right here. The headers are kind of ugly the way they're displayed right now. And let me see if there's anything else to point out to you. Oh, I guess one other thing I should point out is the if you click on Noosphere Simulator, you go back to the list of notebooks. This create new sphere currently does not work. There is only one sphere right now, so you have to click into Bob's notes. We may actually add the ability to have multiple spheres today. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to work on today. And then the other note is that when you create new notes, they are created only in memory. So if I hit this refresh button, it's gone. Oh, I guess one other thing to note is that I did some refactoring this week that allowed everything to work using routes. And so as you click in here, you can see the route here, which gives some nice URLs to get to notes. So this is notebooks/Bob/notes/animal thoughts gets you to this note. And this would be an example of location addressing. Whereas if I wanted to address it by content addressing, I would go here. In fact, that might be a really interesting way of kind of demonstrating the difference. We might have, I might set up URLs that are just like /notes/content address, and then you can go straight to that content address, but we'll see. All right, so that's Noosphere. That is what we have built today, or built so far, and what we're working on. So what do we want to work on today? I did start like a little project of things that we could work on. Let me go ahead and pull up a terminal, go to our code here, simulator, pull the latest. Okay, I have the latest already. Open VS Code, make it a little bigger for you guys, and then yeah, there was some refactoring that happened such that now we're using SvelteKit, and so the basic organization of the repository, if you're jumping in here for the first time, would be that under the routes directory there is a layout would be the top level thing. So this would be the whole site is wrapped in this thing called layout, which is where you'd put things like persistent headers and footers and things like that. So you'll notice that the Noosphere simulator H1 is here, and then this slot says any individual page gets plugged in here, and then this plus page here is like the index of the entire thing. So this shows the list of spheres. Note that right now we have hard-coded Bob's notebook is the only one. We don't have multiple spheres yet, and we could possibly add that. And then underneath that, you can jump into /notebooks. That has its own page as well, page.svelte. And then /notes has its own page. So I don't love the way all these things are named. I need to look at SvelteKit. SvelteKit just changed their routing. And also SvelteKit is in 1.0 release candidate phase, so hopefully things will kind of stabilize with SvelteKit over the next and not change a lot. But right now we just got a brand new routing thing with these pluses, I wish this thing was like plus notes instead of plus page or like notebooks or something. I don't know. All these plus pages make it hard to go to the right one when you're looking at a bunch of different ones. But anyway, that's kind of how things are organized. There's also a lib directory that has a couple of functions that I pull in that are used across things. And then finally, stores, which stores are the in-memory stores for both the sphere and for our fake IPFS. All right, enough tour of the UI of the code base. Let's jump into working on the first thing today. So npm run dev to start this thing up and jump to a page. All right, it has started. I was thinking maybe a good place to start today would be to give us edits. So right now you can create a new note, but you can't edit an existing one, which kind of makes sense because each of these notes is stored in IPFS, the content. So they are in some sense idempotent or permanent. And this is there's a Noosphere Figma file that has some diagrams about it. I'm going to kind of reference that on and off, and we'll kind of be building around that. We'll be building out some of these diagrams in the Noosphere simulator to be live and interactive, which is kind of cool. But for right now, for a single note, or rather a single memo, you can actually see the parent CID points back to previous versions. So this is history back 1 version, history back 2 versions, that kind of thing. And you can see past CIDs. So this allows us to have things like we can make edits to an existing file and we get version control sort of automatically. Now, my understanding, really rough understanding, is that what provides this structure for us is a tool called IPLD. Yeah, that's my current understanding. Well, actually, that's not true. I don't think that's true strictly. So IPLD would be the way that the entire memo is encoded. What provides the structure here is that for each file that we write, we point back to the previous one using the memo. So it's actually the memo that provides some of this version control stuff. So let's see about implementing that. What would it take to have an edit here for this note, and then be able to both write a new version of the file and then be able to browse back to previous versions? Because right now all of our notes that are here only have a single version. So that's going to like kind of flex our understanding of the way that memos work, of the way that the way that CIDs work, and all of that. And then there's some other interesting questions too, like can headers change over time? Probably. Yeah, what happens if, like, what does it mean to rename a file? Is the file in the header? Is the file in the actual links here, which is another structure inside the sphere? This will be an interesting thing to learn how it works. All right, so we have another 8.5 minutes before this Pomodoro is up, so let's go ahead and dive into some code finally. All right. Okay, so if we wanted to start with editing, we could jump into routes, notebooks, notes, page. This would be the page where the note is displayed, and we'll probably want to put the edit here, or the edit functionality here. Where would we want to put the edit on the page? So here's the content. I've got the memo and the content split out into different blocks. This is sort of your route of where you're at. You're in Bob's notebook. You're looking at animal thoughts. This is the content of the note, and this is the memo. Maybe we should put the content, maybe we should put a header above the content block so that you know that you're looking at the content. Let's do that first. So we'll pull this memo up to here. Can H3s go inside of paragraphs? I don't know if that's legal. I think it is. Maybe not. Let's see. Obviously, browsers will work with you and let you do things that are illegal, but yep. Uh-oh. Did it crash the server? npm run dev. Bob's notebook. Okay, stop. Okay, there we go. For some reason it was having trouble reloading. I'm gonna bring up the console here so we can see if there are any errors. I've got some helpful console log messages that are littered throughout the code base right now. Okay, great. Now we can see content, I love cats. Okay, cool. I really want to make sure that we had these nice section breaks between the different sections so we can kind of clearly see that. Maybe we'll throw an edit button next to content. Seems like a reasonable place to put it for now. Let's see. I'm going to steal some of the buttons that I'm using for new notes. So that's over here in page svelte. A button, let's see. Where is create new? There it is, create new note. Grab that and put that there. And this will say edit note equals true. Edit note, and we'll need to create a variable up here. Let edit note equals false. So that says like basically hide the edit note functionality. And there we go. We get an edit note. I'm actually going to throw this over here on the right and throw Visual Studio Code over here on the left. Hide the sidebar. This thing compresses down pretty well, and you can see the watch things live reload as I'm editing, which is somewhat nicer to see. Okay, great. We've got an edit note button. It's a little big and needs a little bit of spacing. Oh, and this has an annoying underline thing that's extending. You know what? Let's bring it outside of the H3 and we'll just float it to the left. Let me see. Oh, I know what we can do. We can do inline block for both of these things. So I wonder if there's like a so I'm using Tailwind for, there we go. Inline block's nice. I'm using Tailwind for my CSS library. I wonder if there's what you end up with is a ton of classes like laid out in Tailwind. I wonder if there's a reasonable, what am I trying to say? A reasonable ordering for the classes of like these classes come in this order, you know, that kind of thing, because you end up with a bunch of them at times. But anyway, we got our edit note and give a little bit of top margin to that. Margin top 2 pixels or something to bump it down a little bit. There we go. Nice. Edit note. Okay, clicking that does nothing for now except for set edit note to true. Let's go ahead and add a section underneath the paragraph. All right, Copilot's suggesting some stuff. Let's see if we agree with it. One of the things that I've noticed with Copilot, by the way, is it has started reading my other files in my and auto-completing from code that is in other files in my repository. I don't think it was always doing that. I think it was kind of focused on a single file at a time and then pulling from its corpus. So this is actually pulling some code that is in, or being inspired by some code that was in another page.svelte, which is kind of cool. I'm gonna hit tab, see what Copilot has given us. The text area, the bind value is wrong. We're definitely gonna want that to, let's see, note content or something along those lines. The cancel button is below, the text area is above. So yeah, there's some weird stuff that it's doing here. And let's see. Wait, what did I call that? I've already forgotten. Note content, okay. Let note content that, click edit note. Cancel. Interesting. Yeah, the buttons are kind of like in the wrong place, but the text area looks okay. We'll I'm gonna want to copy that wonderful text edit hack. Also, why is this an H3? Yeah, you know what? Copilot, I appreciate the attempt, but I'm gonna say not so good. Let's go over to add new note, and I'm gonna pull this code over, and I think it'll be easier just to edit what I've got in here down to the format that I want. All right, this looks good right there. And it's going to go underneath the paragraph. So this will say edit note. And this is new note title, or updated note title, I guess would be the thing. We'll bind the value to edit note, edited note title. Is that how to spell it? Does it edited have 2 T's or 1 T? Should know these things. Edited note content. And then this on-click should edit note, which I don't have a function for that yet. Value, this is edit. Let's see if there's any other place. Here's a placeholder. So we'll call this edited note content. Okay, all of that, or I guess I called it updated here, so I could just say updated note content. Update's not really right. I don't know if edited is either, because you're not technically editing. I guess from the user's perspective, you are editing the note, but it's not really what's happening. You're actually creating a new note or a new version of this note. All right, so we're going to want to edited note content, edited note title. I think those were our 2. Cool. All right, now we're in a good spot here. Let me see if I've got my, cool, we've got our auto expand working. Oop, cancel. Oh, hey, we're at our first Pomodoro break. Let's take a few more minutes to clean this up. We're really close here, but it's missing some of the styling, and then we'll take our first 5-minute break here. Let's see. So edit note is here. Where is margin beneath? Let's go back to Bob's notebook and click create new. Okay. So what we're missing is just some padding around this. Oh, and I made it a different, interesting. So it makes the create new note button go away, and it creates its own little section. If we were to follow that style here, then we would move the edit note below. We do get our own section, which is good. Okay, so a couple things. Is this whole thing wrapped in a div? It is not. So let's put this in a div here. I think it's padding 2 around it, and like a border bottom 2. Oops. And border color white, I think. And then that. And then we'll put the end of this edit note after this guy. And then this is going to say edit note is false when you click cancel. Or how about, let's say editing note. Seems like a better word here. Editing note equals true. Editing note equals false. And then finally, we're going to need a function called edit note, which will do some stuff. Doesn't do anything right now. Uh-oh. Cannot read contents. Let's go back to notebooks Bob. There we go. Sometimes it does weird stuff like that. Notice how it broke, but then I navigated to it directly and it worked. Are these in mono phase? No, they're not. Okay, so I think must have in this div done a text mono. No, font mono. There we go. Now it's looking good. Great. Let me get that. And then we get the edit note. When I click cancel, oh, it doesn't make it go away. Oh, I haven't wrapped the whole thing in an if yet, so we'll do that. This is Svelte's way of doing this is if editing note, then do this stuff, and then there's like a close if, which I think looks like that. There we go. I think I did that right. I think it's pound. All right, now edit note, cancel, edit note, cancel. It looks good. Now that I'm looking at these headers, I might want to change that style a little bit, but now we have a little edit note pane. We also have the edit note button up here. Let's get rid of that one on the inline block. And we can make this no longer inline block. Almost done here. I'm going to take a quick break. So, oh, doggone it. I need that button, but I want to move it down. That's it. Okay, cool. Move that after the paragraph. Should not be inline block, but it's its own. So I'm using the paragraph to get, well, I guess I can pull it in here. No, I do want it on its own line. I guess I should wrap this whole thing in a div and give this the bottom border, or border bottom 2, border white. Wrap that around that, and then take that off of this guy. And then also take the pixel, the padding, and move that up to here. And take it off here. Oh, looks like we still got that inline block, which we don't want. All right, this is looking better, looking better, looking better. And we don't want that margin top anymore. Kind of do. All right, this is looking good. All right, now if I click edit note, do I get what I want? Yes, I do, but I want the button to go away too. So let's do an if here. Found if editing note. Oh, sorry, if not editing note. There we go. Cool. Yay. All right. Now we've got this edit note that comes up and brings up this separate section where we can edit it. If you click cancel, it goes away and you get back to this. Yeah, everything's starting to look a little tight and busy in this UI right now, so we might want to change some things out, but we have the basics of the form, and so the next thing will actually be to fill out this function here that will create a new note. This is actually also, again, I'm gonna take a 5-minute break. When I get back, we'll work on this, but if you're looking for something to do during the 5-minute break, you could go to the utils.js and read the code for the add note function. So that's on line 15 in utils.js in the GitHub repo. We're basically going to make another function like this one that is an edit note function, which we'll probably have to pass in the previous version. We're going to make a new memo. It's like, yeah, this will be a good opportunity to walk through the basic data structures that power Noosphere, which is the memo, the note content, IPFS. All right, we have gone well over our first Pomodoro, and that's totally fine. So I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back in 5 to continue going through this. See you guys in a few. All right, hello and welcome back to Coding with Jess, where you're coding along with me while we're building a Noosphere simulator. So we are at the beginning of Pomodoro number 2 of 4. So we've been at it for about 30 minutes or 25, 30 minutes, and we will jump back in for another 25 minutes before we take another break. So welcome back. Okay, click Start Tomato, and here we go. All right, so in the last few minutes, we're working on editing a note in Subconscious, which is going to give us the ability to use these parent SIDs to point back to previous versions. And I've got a pretty good, clear picture about what the code implementation right here is going to look like. I'm actually wondering about what this how to dynamically do this visualization. So that was kind of what I spent my 5-minute break wandering around thinking about as I was wandering around in the beautiful fall weather here in North Carolina. All right, but let's start out with how we're actually going to do edits. So when I click the edit note button, it brings up this interface here where I have I can edit the note title. We should possibly something we should definitely do is we should go ahead and populate the these particular items with the current content to let it be known that that is what you're about to edit. So let's see, let's set the edit note content to the edit note title to data.title. That should give us, there we go, cat thoughts. Yeah, interesting. Okay, yeah. Not going to jump into that right now. Okay, edit note title is there. Edit note content will be, let's see, that would be, I need to fetch the note. I think it's fetch note content by data title. Well, that's surprising. Let's see. So again, we're getting weirdness some of the times when we do this. Whoa. Cannot access fetch note content. Oh, because it has to be defined? Sometimes order matters, sometimes order doesn't matter. Guess in this case it does. Let's pull these down to here. I've been thinking about pulling those functions out anyway and putting them in lib and importing them. All right. Fetch note content. Oh, this will have to be done on mount. Okay. So we'll do, sorry, what's happening here is I'm actually trying to call fetch note content before the stores are updated. And so we're getting an attempt to read the SID here before it's actually being loaded. So this is coming back as undefined from the Sphere store because the Sphere store doesn't actually have what we need in it right now. And so then actually it might be able to fake it out this way. Bob's notebook, cat thoughts. Ha ha ha. All right, so that was kind of cheating. Right now, I just realized that we have a side effect of the way that I'm handling seed data, in that when I hit return here, this will not load because the Sphere doesn't have any data in it yet. But if I go back to the home and walk through this, it will load. So I'm going to go through and kind of mark that as a defect for now. That if I were to go fix that right now, you would get to see more about the way that Svelte components load and the way that Svelte stores data in their Svelte stores, but that's not what we're actually trying to learn about right now. So I'm going to fix that bug later. And I'm going to go ahead and add an item here. Defect, direct URLs don't work because of Sphere seed data. Because Sphere starts empty. All right, we'll go fix that later. Making a note for myself. And we now know how to work around it, which is go back to the root and then click the notebook, click there, and then now we've got this thing. So we have the title there, we have the actual content there, and then we can go through and change it. If I change it, I love every kind of cats, or I love all kinds of cats. Then we click edit note, nothing is going to happen. because the edit note function is currently empty. So let's go through and make this function actually work. So for one, we're going to want at the end of, let's see, edit, grab the new note title and content. Do we want to, yes, let's actually call edit note in lib, and then we will clear. What should happen once you've clicked edit note in the UI? That's an interesting question. So with new note, we just we take you to the actual contents of the. I want to create a new one. Noosphere is the best. Blah 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 blah, and click add note. It goes right here immediately. It adds to the list. Doesn't take you to the note. We could do that. I'll like redirect you there immediately. But right now, it just adds it to the list. How do we want to do that? Or what would we like to do here? So when I click edit note and click edit note, probably should take me to the new version of the note, I'm guessing. Yeah. That'll be interesting. This kind of gets to the core of the way that Noosphere works, because what's going to happen is, well, easiest way to draw it is this way. Okay, so here's what's going to happen when we actually edit the note, and this will be helpful when we get into actually implementing the change. So using the nice diagrams that they have here, or the diagram style, this is the parent CID. Actually, let's do this first. I'm going to move over here so we have lots of space. This is a current note. And it has a parent CID and some headers. And currently it points nowhere. So the parent CID is null right now. Content CID, which will point down to IPFS. Not sure how I want to represent this yet, but this is one of the things I'm thinking about, is how to have an IPS visualizer inside of Noosphere Simulator. Okay, so then this will point to some content in here, which will then have the content, some kind of file. Again, I haven't figured out how to reference that. But anyway, so when I create an updated note, it's going to create a new memo. So keep in mind, this thing is the memo. Create a new one. And then it's going to also update some data structures inside the sphere. And so that's what we're going to need to get to here in a second. But this new memo is going to, the CID is going to point to, interesting. So the diagram's kind of misleading over here now that I think about it. Jump back over to the Figma file. Yeah, so you kind of have to read this as this parent CID is not pointing to this parent CID. This parent CID is pointing to this memo, which is actually pointing to the CID of the memo. So the current note, this whole memo piece has a CID as well, or a content ID. Current note, and it has a CID, just something, and then, and I get what Chris is going for with the diagram, and it is somewhat clear, but it just, this reality right here that it's pointing, that the parent CID is like right there. I don't know. It, for some reason in my mind, I had it pointing to the other CID, which is not exactly accurate. So anyway, parent CID is going to point here to the CID of the current note. The updated note will have its own new CID. Let's go ahead and give these actual things, because I'm going to reference them inside the sphere data structures in just a second. So let's say this is ABC and this is DEF. are the CIDs for these updated note. And then this thing will have headers as well. Another question I was asking is, like, could headers change over time? Absolutely, they could. Should they? Yeah. And then this is the content CID. And that will point to a new piece of content inside IPFS. This all the way down to that. All right, then headers. Okay, so now we have sort of our, like, this is one. This is sort of the version history of a file. And then the other thing that we have is the sphere data structure. The sphere data structure also uses this sort of, let's see, links, notes, and names are the three things inside of sphere. Sphere is links, notes, names. And then inside the notes structure, well, is the memos. But it's only the most recent memos? Yes. Think that's right. Yeah, so I guess at any given time, you'll only have one memo per note stored in here. This is good, because this is actually fleshing out something that I am unclear about Noosphere. My assumption, so to state the question directly, one memo per note. But what happens, and when you have multiple versions, then this memo is also stored in IPFS, and I go and look it up, or no, because this, no. Okay, it's not one memo per note. I'm pretty sure not, no. Because this data structure, the array mapped try, yeah, pretty sure it's not one memo per note. We'll have to ask Chris at some point. So then this, because this will operate more like a tree of different ones. Yeah, so, oh yeah, here we go. Here's a good example. You see, in this case, we've got a memo that's stored in here, but it has no link pointing to it. So these top links up here. Oh, geez, sorry. I'm like pointing at stuff and you can't see it. Here we go, on the screen here. So in his diagram of the way a sphere works, we have this is a memo. And so we have a memo that doesn't have a link pointing to it. And I think that is like basically a previous version of a memo. Okay, so I think I think I've satisfied my question that there is not one memo per note. I'm going to erase that for now, and I'm going to draw what I think is going to happen inside the sphere. We've already got the version history of a file here. It's going to create a new memo. So this new memo is going to get stored in this notes thing. There's that one. And then here's this one. Good. And so that's our new memo, which will get stored here in the notes link. And then the links piece, what this has is basically a mapping of human readable names to memos. So you could, this cat thoughts. Yeah, you guys are looking at the right thing. Cat thoughts, which links to that. It used to link to this one and then ends up linking to the other one. So now, a couple of interesting points here. So we end up with this memo gets added. This memo in effect gets orphaned, except that it's still pointed to here. So you can still walk backwards from the file like this, right? To get previous memos. So we're going to need to do a couple things. We will create a new memo. Create new memo. Link to old memo CID. Update sphere dot links to point to new memo. Create new memo and store in sphere.notes. All right, so we'll create a new memo, we'll store it in sphere.notes, we'll link to the old memo CID. I don't like this ordering now. Okay, hold on. This is slightly less clear with the and. I can make this clearer for myself and hopefully for you as well. So we'll create a new memo, which is creating this new data structure. We'll link to the old memo, which is draw this line. We will add new memo to sphere.notes. Apologize for running out of space there. And then we will update sphere. Yeah, update sphere dot links to point to new memo. So that would be drawing this line here. Now, this begs the question though of the link here, this human readable link. If this is the note's title and I change the note's title, then have I just created a new note? And I think the short answer to that is yes. Yes, you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove, to make this like clearer for now, I'm going to remove, because this feels like a rename. This is another like Sphere question. Like, how would renaming titles of notes work? Like, how should that work? So let me like questions. Out of my way, pretty lights. How does renaming notes work? And this is about how, this is basically a question about how the sphere.links things work. I think there's a couple different options there, but we'll get into that in a second. To dodge that question for now, let's actually go over to our code and remove this title entirely so that you can't change the title to begin with. And I think that'll help at least constrain the problem to where it's just about updating the note's title, and then we can kind of follow our recipe that we wrote up here of creating a new memo, linking to the old memo's CID, adding the new memo to sphere.notes, and then updating the sphere.links to point to the new memo. All right, cool. So then we are in page.svelte. We don't need editing note title anymore. Although maybe we'll just hide it. Not a huge fan of just like commenting things out and keeping them around. I prefer to just delete them and add them back as needed. But yeah, this is fine. We'll just comment it out and then we'll comment this piece out as well. Okay, so then in this case, we just want to grab the new note content. Call edit node in lib, and then clear. And then this was, yeah. So then we want to show the new note, the updated note content, which this is going to happen automatically because of the way that Sphere works. I mean, sorry, the way that stores work in Svelte. So this will be interesting. Okay, now that we understand that, let's come down to export const. We are in the utils function, and we are going to export a function called edit note. And right now, edit note is only going to take content and a memo SID. Seemed like a reasonable thing. So like up memo SID updated content. Let's see how that interface works out for us. So then we would want to fetch, get the memo. Did you get the memo? Oh, goodness. Did you create a new memo from the old one? Update the parent SID to point to the old memo. Store the updated content in IPFS, and finally add the new memo to the sphere. That's here though. Store the updated content in IPFS, and then update the sphere links to point to the new memo. All right, let's see how that works then. So sphere store.get. We'll call this old memo. Is that how that works? Sphere store.get? I think I should just be able to do not sure. SvelteKit. I don't have the SvelteKit stores API off the top of my head how it works. API, whatever. Not what I meant to say. Working with Svelte stores. So we're not doing like a subscribe here. Improving, let's see. I don't care about making them reactive. I want to, all right, let me see if it's just in here. Decrementer, incrementer, resetter. Tell you what, let's just do this. Console.log. And this is not going to work because of our little problem, but we'll go back to the beginning. Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, edit note, console.log, old memo. Memo content. All right, back to the top. We've now accessed updated content over in page.svelte. Let's actually call the right function. Oh, we'll need to import it first. Am I importing anything from utils yet? I'm not. Import update, or sorry, edit note from, that's not the right place. It'll be source lib utils. Oh yes, that's correct. We'll call it edit note content here and edit note. I'm gonna give us 5 more minutes. We're like making some good progress here. There's the on click. We'll change that to edit note content. And then here we are importing it from the right place. So then we want to say edit note content. We want the CID, which I guess we'll have to do a fetch note current note dot. Actually, I don't even. How do we do that? There we go. That gives us the current CID. And then edited note content. All right, let's see. Now we need to go start back at the root to get around our little defect. Click Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, edit note. I love cats. I love all kinds of cats. All right, and then edit note, and we get recursion. Must have done something silly. Oh, yep, I did. I called this function. Copy paste error. There we go. All right, edit note. I love all kinds of cats. Let's clear this and then click edit note. See you later, Michael. Thanks for hanging out. Sphere store.get is not a function. Okay, good. I was thinking that did not look right. I think I can just access it directly. Sphere store.notes. Let's go back to the root. Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, edit note. All kinds of cats, edit note. Cannot read properties of undefined. Okay, so sphere store.links the current node. That's not going to be the problem. Memo CID. Ah, right. So the memo CID. Passing in the memo CID doesn't feel like the right interface to this. It feels like it should be like note title or note name maybe. And then instead we'll do links / note name, and that will get us the memo CID. And then we'll do sphere store.notes memo CID to get the memo. All right, edit note. A note is being edited with I love cats. I love every kind of cat. Do you have cat? That's correct. Note edited. And then there's something at the end happening there. We're getting a failure afterwards, which is fine. Actually, I'm now curious. If I go back to Bob's notebook, animal thoughts. Ah, right, because we haven't updated the content yet. Okay, cool. So something is working. So we've gotten the memo. Let's create a new memo from the old one. So const, this will be a let new. Well, we might be able to do it all in a single call. Let's see. Const new memo will be apparent CID. which should refer to the previous memo SID. So that's our first thing here. Creating a memo, link to the old memo SID. The headers, let's make that old memo dot headers. We're not going to change those at all. And then the content SID, we'll want to, yes, generate SID from object, updated content. Yep, we're definitely going to want to do that. Let's go ahead and I'm going to give us 5 more minutes. I'm on a roll and I don't want to stop. Old, this is new, new content, sorry, updated content SID equals that. So then this will be updated content SID. Update the parent SID to point to the old memo. Already did that. Add the new memo to the sphere. We have not done that. So this would be, goodness. What's that look like? It looks like this. Sphere.update. Spherestore.update. Sphere. Oh, we need a new SID. That's right. So we need const new memo SID equals that. So this will be new memo SID equals new memo. I really got to get some consistency around the way I'm using the word SID here. Should I lowercase the whole thing? Uppercase? I'm being silly here. All right, there's that. And then I'm going to move this down to there because it kind of is logically related to that. So then there's the updated content SID and the new memo. And then we want to store the updated content on IPFS. So let's go grab that. Maybe we should maybe like wrap this in a function as well, but do this for now. So this will be IPFS updated content SID equals updated content. And then update the sphere links to point to the new memo. That will be this one. Spherestore.update, and it will be old memo dot title. Is that? I'm trying to remember. Oh, note name. Eesh, I need to formalize on whether I'm using name or title too. And this will be the new memo SID. Again, I'm not using the SID capitalization consistently. Whew, okay. This is a lot, but fortunately we had kind of looked at it at the board first, right? So we are creating a new memo, linking to the old memo SID, which is like drawing this link here, adding the new memo to sphere.notes, which adds it here. And then we're updating sphere.links, which is this guy, to point to the new memo as opposed to the old memo. So let's see that code. Here is creating a new memo, which then has content, has its own content ID. We add the new memo to the sphere. We store the updated content in IPFS. We update the sphere links to point to the new memo. All right, whole bunch of untested, wild, adventurous code. Let's go see how that works in practice. So we'll come back to the root here, click on Bob's Notebook, cat thoughts, edit note. We'll add a yay to the end here and click edit note. All right, it says that the note was edited, but we're getting a cannot read properties at edit note line in utils line 36. So let's see. Our 51? Is it 51 or 36? Ah, so this sphere store.links to read straight from the sphere store doesn't work? Why not work? Maybe there actually is a get function to get things from the sphere store. So sphere store, as it's defined, has a links thing right here. Kind of surprised that the naive thing does not work. It says, let's take 5 more minutes right here, and then we will take a break. So it's saying cannot read properties of undefined, as if that links note name, or as if links is a content ID, but know that that's not the case. There's the memo, Sid. I'm wondering if it's something to do with updating. Maybe I need an await here. And an async. Nope. Okay. That doesn't change anything. That probably is true that we need that to be an await and async anyway. Although none of these function. There's an await right there. Yeah. When we're generating SIDs, we have to do awaits. And this is an async function. So that will now. Ah, okay. Interesting. So we no longer get this final error message, this final console log here of note edited. It actually errors out inside edit note. Okay, so we know it's not anything to do with page.svelte reading from this. All right, well, right before trying to debug something is a good opportunity to take a break. So we are going to take a 5-minute break. We're now 1 hour into working on Noosphere Simulator. We've got 1 hour left. Take 5 minutes. I'll be back. And yeah, we'll work for 2 more Pomodoros. So I encourage you guys to take a break too, walk outside, breathe some fresh air, and we'll see you shortly. Bye. All right, welcome back to Coding with Jess. We're about to start up Pomodoro 3 of 4. We've been at it for about an hour this morning working on editing notes in the Noosphere simulator, which has brought up some good questions that we have had to work through. So without further ado, I also see Chris Joel has joined the session. Chris is one of the authors of Noosphere and the Subconscious, which will be an application built on top of Noosphere. So happy to have him hanging out. Let's go ahead and jump back into where we were. So I'll start another 25-minute timer. Again, we have two 25-minute timers left, so about an hour left. We're about halfway through our coding session for the day. All right, so we currently have a defect in our edit note function, but we've got the majority of it implemented now. So if you go to the Noosphere simulator, Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, you can click edit note, which brings up this little edit note interface. And I mean every single one. When you click edit note, currently there's a little bug in our edit note function. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Tells us that that is happening on line 51 of the edit note. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this has to do with the way that I'm reading data from the Sphere store. Which is a Svelte store. So let's do some quick Googling here. Pretty sure I have some examples of this kind of code in the web native app template that I've been working on. So let's jump into there. If you go to source, lib. By the way, just a meta note of like, if you've been programming for a while or if you're fairly new to it, I often read when I'm trying to figure out how to solve a problem, I'll often go look at code that I've already written where I know I was running into the problem instead of go read the docs, especially if I know, like in the case of SvelteKit, that the docs are not super great around the way that stores work. So let's see, I think we would be using them in auth. We have when you create a new account, we'll be reading from the file system store and the session store. You see these up here at the top. So let's see how file system store is interacted with. There's a bunch of sets. Well, that's not super helpful. And I'm mainly looking to see how, so there's sets and updates. Update is where you get a callback function that you can pass in. Set is where you want to set like a value directly. Are there stores here? There's not. Should not be a store in linking, I don't believe. Nope. And in it, yes, there will be. There's some sets and updates. Let's see. Session store is not read there, nor in async debounce. Don't think we're doing anything store stuff. That's all. I'm kind of surprised that this line is throwing some problems. Okay, Sphere store is getting pulled in from stores. Sphere store would have, the way it's getting defined is here. So it's wrapping this writable object. The object has a links member in it, property, and that links property links to another object. And so the sphere.links should allow me to access that object. Tell you what, before we go any further, let's just do sphere store.links and see if it actually gives me. Let's see. Edit note, blah, blah, blah. Clear that out, click edit note. So it says sphere.links is undefined. Actually curious about Sphere Store in general. This could have something to do with the bug that we've already identified in terms of the way that I'm initializing stores. Okay, there we go. We get a set, an update, and a subscribe is what you get from importing the store. It's kind of surprising. I would expect that you would get the object itself. Set, subscribe, and update. So do I need to subscribe to the... That's weird. So subscribe is what you would typically use in the UI to be able to update the UI dynamically whenever something in the store itself changes. There is possibly a way to work around this problem, which is we could look this data up in the view. I guess the other option here is to wrap a lot of this stuff in an update function. Both of those feel like inelegant solutions. So Chris makes the point, minor note, header order is technically important, and there can be multiple entries with the same key. So we model headers as an array of string rather than map of string. That makes sense. Yeah. I guess another way to handle that in JavaScript would be, I think maps are consistently ordered, but array makes a lot of sense. Whereas objects are not consistently ordered. I think that's something I'm remembering from back a year or so ago when I was working on a problem where that mattered. One question. Okay. So I'm running up against some basically some misunderstandings that I have about the way that Svelte stores work. And I don't really want to have you guys sit here and work through my understanding of Svelte with me on the call. So I could work around this by passing in the old memo into this edit note function from the actual component. Or there's two workarounds. One is that one. The other workaround would be doing wrapping the whole thing in a sphere stored update. So here's what that would look like. Sphere store.update. I'll get the existing sphere and pass that into a function. And then move that all the way down to the bottom here. Except that I've got other sphere updates. Wait. Update the sphere links to point to the new memo. Okay. So we could actually do these updates here. Okay. I mean, this isn't so bad. Let's move this IPFS store update out. I don't think, yeah, the time at which we can definitely, good point. Chris points out you can't have multiple of the same key in maps or objects, and you can, in their world, have multiple of the same key. Yeah, I have a further question on that one that I'll get to in a second, but let me finish this refactor because I think this is actually going to solve our problem. So we're going to return sphere at the end. We're going to do that, update that. I'm just quickly going through and reformatting this, and then we can, oh, interesting. It's going to give me problems with the await. Oh, I have to make this an async function. I did that wrong. Oh, where's the, okay. Cursor got lost for a second there. Async. Oops. All right. So the first thing we do is get the memo, which now that we have the sphere, we can actually access it like this. And then we create a new memo, which is here. We add the new memo to the sphere, and we update the sphere links. Yeah, I think this will work. And then we update. The updated content CID we'll need to get outside of this update function. And we're going to use it in there and there. Okay, I fell. Well, this is definitely an attempt to make it work. We'll see if it actually does work. So we'll go back to the root. Hopefully I've worked around Svelte's weirdness here. Edit note, some stuff. Rats. Okay. It's still giving me... I'm definitely doing something silly here. Utils line 61 now. All right. Okay. So my lookup reading headers from old memo. Okay, so reading headers from undefined fails. So our old memo lookup in the sphere notes is let's do a console log of sphere here. What do we have in the sphere? And I think this is probably from my, hey. All right, this is looking good. Let's see, let's walk through this then. Sphere links should give us the memo CID. Let's do some console logging. Memo CID. And then console log out the old memo. Edit note. Blah, blah, blah. Clear. Edit note. Boom. All right, so something about the way that I'm trying to access these like links. Note name. Is note name coming in nil for some reason? Edit note. Maybe. Let's make sure that we're not doing something, a note named this, note name is being edited with updated content. All right, let's try that. Bob's notebook, cut thoughts, edit note, blah, 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 clear that, and edit note. All right, a note named, aha, that is the problem. Okay. We're not actually passing the note name in at all. We are passing in the CID. Man, you gotta be kidding me. I think all of this is me calling the function with the wrong parameter back in page.svelte. And it's likely that everything else was working normally. And that I didn't even need to wrap it like the workaround. There's nothing. All right. That's looking better. Looking a lot better. Okay. Yeah, I think almost everything's working. It looks like we're getting all the way to note edited at the end, which is right here in this view. And then we've got a problem here in object.update in page svelte. Let's see where that's happening. Line 52. Ah, yes. Okay. Reading cat thoughts. So sphere.links is coming in as undefined for a minute there. Let's do one final console log here of sphere and then see what it has in it. Let me comment out these console logs, make this a little less noisy. I think it's possible that the sphere that I'm returning, I didn't copy all the content over. So let's see how that looks. Cat thoughts, edit note. I probably need to do, so this has name, it has links in it. It has names, which is empty as expected. It has notes, which there's the right note. That's cool. So that note you might notice has a parent CID, whereas none of the others do. So we're looking at the right data structure, which is cool. Interesting. The timestamps are, anyway, leave the timestamps alone for a second. What we're concerned about is are we actually creating, this is an area where moving to TypeScript will actually be helpful, which I was already thinking about. I might need to refactor to moving to that shortly, but let's leave that alone for a second. So I think what's happening is when it gets to line 52 here, or 1, okay, it's auto breaking there. All right, sorry. Okay, so when it's calling sphere.links, this $sphere says like automatically subscribe to the thing, but ooh, that might be a problem actually. We might want to actually say we have both an auto subscribe and a real subscription going on at the same time. I'm not sure how that would work in Svelte, so let's change over to using Sphere Store for everything. Let me see if there's any other cases where we have an auto subscribe working in here. No, we don't. Okay. Well, that was certainly during my refactor, I moved from an auto subscribe to manually adding subscriptions to stores. So hopefully that. Okay, still same problem, but better to do it the way that, yeah, okay. So what's going on here? The current note, basically after we end up with this, after we call this edit note, it's going to update the store content for the Sphere store. And it should auto refresh the UI, which I think is what's happening as well. The UI is getting auto refreshed. And it's saying when it's trying to read from the links to see, let's see if that's the right way for this to work. Spherestore.links/current note. So that would be reading the current notes memo CID, right? Because when you look up in the links directory, based on the note title, it's giving you a CID that points to the memo. Let's just try commenting that out for now. And see if we get any of the other stuff updated appropriately. Noosphere simulator, Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, edit. Okay, no errors, but the content didn't change. And that's because what? Fetch note content, current note. We are subscribing to it. Okay, let's see. So if I go back to Bob's notebook, Oh, interesting. So in Bob's notebook, watch when I click edit note, edited copy, and click edit note. Yeah, Bob's notebook disappears from that page and you get an undefined there. So something else, I must be corrupting something else about the sphere. I think we should do this. I think we should we know this works, the update here. We also know the sphere works fine here. Where is the bug? So why would the name of the notebook, which is I think in the layouts function, let me see. No, it's not. Okay. So is it at the top here? Yes. So sphere_store.title returns undefined here after we do an update. That is surprising because we are subscribing to Sphere Store here. And so as the sphere changes, we should get updates automatically. Maybe we can do a constrained version of this instead of calling the fanciness in here. We could do an update. So that would be sphere store dot update sphere. And instead of doing anything fancy, let's just set the title of the sphere to Alice. And yeah, let's see if that simple thing works. So clicking edit and edit. Sphere store update's not a function. Oh, as sphere. Okay. Yes. As sphere. All right. Edit. Edit. Alice. Nice. Okay. So that appears to work. The sphere title has changed. So this simple example changes. When we try to do it through here, we get something else. So this time it again, it cleared the data. I feel like I'm doing something stupid with SpellKit. Make that sync. Nope, that's going to come back. Oh, gosh. Is there something else called sphere in here? We're importing sphere store. All right, let me comment all of this stuff out and try some more like naive debugging here. sphere store dot update. Actually, let's move this sphere store update into here and uncomment it. 5 more minutes. I want to see if we can see if this exact change works, and then if it does, we'll know a little more. So now we're trying to rename. Now we're down inside the edit note, and don't need that SID. Now we're returning sphere. Okay, all that looks good. Edit note, edit note. Cool. All right, so all we've done is moved the line that would rename the sphere's title from Bob to Alice down inside the lib directory. See if that works for us. Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, edit note. It does work. All right, and then if I click here, I've got Alice. Yeah, cool. Okay, so that works. Let's build up from there. Now we want to next. We want to make a change to the links to add. Okay, trying to think about the smallest possible next change I could make. We know, because clearly this larger change is not happy. So what do I want to add into updating my sphere? One, we need to get the old memo. So let's grab the old memo and let's make a small change to so there's the old memo. We could make an updated memo. I guess I could try adding an existing one or adding a new one. So that would be like sphere.notes sub new memo SID. Since we've just got like sort of naive types right now, I can just arbitrarily come up with one. Let me take or actually, well, headers and content SID, updated content SID. All right, let's see if that works. Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, edit notes, blah, blah, blah. Edit note. All right, I changed that to Alice. And if I go back to Alice's, right, because I didn't add anything to links. So if I wanted to do links, sub, let's see, some new note and equals, doesn't really, I guess it'd be ABCD. All right, so this is just hard coding a bunch of changes here and seeing if they give us what we want. Edit note, Alice, there we go, some new note. Cool. Content is undefined because that's expected. I'm not sure why the content SID is, oh, because I created a new SID for the updated content, but I never added it to IPFS. Okay, cool. So we're slowly building up to the actual working functionality. I can now, oh, interesting. Did you guys see? Okay, that looked like it might have broken something. Maybe that's where one of the breakages is happening. Let's go see. Updated content. All right, so cat thoughts, edit note, something, something, edit note. We get the change and there's some new note. And it actually has the new note content. All right, so the IPFS add works. And we're getting close here. I'm gonna leave the change to the title for now. Oops. 5 more minutes. Give me 5 more minutes. I've been like 5 more minutesing my Pomodoro timer for a while today. Okay, we're getting closer. So what we were doing, the thing that was causing problems. So we need to create an updated memo, which we did. We need to get the old memo CID. Something about this is the thing that's bothering me, I think. Chris says, I've been 5 more minutesing for about 6 months straight. Yeah, it's not good for our health. All right, so there's one more change we can make. I can actually point this updated memo at the right place. And then the other thing I can do, oh, okay. The link, we want to overwrite the link. Maybe that's what's going on. And this is exactly what we were kind of talking about here in the chat with Chris, is that the list of links, I think he says the header order is an array instead of a map. All right, well, here, okay. So sphere links note name is ABCD. So we're using a content SID here. We're using ABCD in place of a real content SID, sorry. We are not using the real memo yet, but so what we expect now when we do the update is we expect the name of the notebook to change to Alice. We expect there to be a new note that we don't expect there to be a new note. We expect there to be the same note, but we expect it to point to updated content. So this is a little bit further down. It doesn't have all the right headers yet from the old memo, but it should change the content. All right, Alice, cat thoughts. It did. What? All right. So we're really, really close now. Parent SID is pointing at the previous SID, which is awesome. One thing that's weird to me is it doesn't update the UI on the fly. So if I come in here and click that blah, it should update this copy of the content. I mean, that's the whole point of Svelte Store subscriptions. But I think it's possible that has to do with the fetch note method that I don't know. Something about that feels wrong. But we'll come back to that. The point is, the good news is it's actually updating and creating new contents of the note. Oh, check it out. And now our parent SID is actually this ABCD arbitrary SID. Okay, cool. So we're getting closer. We're gonna need to generate, well, we need to get the old SID, which is this one, or sorry, the old memo. We need to get the existing memo and get the headers from the existing memo to make sure that we're copying those over appropriately. And let's do that first. Make one change at a time here. It's so tempting to make a couple of changes at a time. Yeah, JavaScript state management. You aren't kidding me, Chris. There's been so many ways that oh, all right. That I've fought JavaScript state management over the many, many years I've been working with this. All right, cool. We got edit appropriately. Now if I click into cat thoughts, we now have headers copying over appropriately. Hallelujah. All right, now the last thing will be generating a SID for, this is going to be the updated memo SID. We're going to generate it for updated memo. And then we will use the updated memo SID in our sphere notes. and we will use it in the links. Make sure everything's all linked together delightfully. Oh, interesting. Okay. Gosh darn it. So that means this needs to become an async function so that we get an appropriate await. 5 more minutes, just 5 more minutes. Come on. Surely we'll get it working. So maybe this is where the problem is introduced, is that we turning this into an async function. I don't know. Do we have an await here? I don't know. All right. Async await. Another thing that I do not like about JavaScript. All right. Cat thoughts, edit note, slobby dobby dobby, edit note. Yep. And that's where it breaks. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now broken. Okay. So there's something wrong with the way that async await, or the way that I'm using async await. So the Svelte store update here. This update function, making it async, definitely causes problems. If I don't make it async, then this generate SID from object is going to come back as a promise. And then I'm going to be writing a promise here to all of these, and that's just not going to work. I need a way to block on that. Let's try a couple other configurations just to see if we get lucky. But I'm not happy. So I have another idea in terms of how to make it work. But I'm going to try this one thing, and then we actually are going to take a break. Okay, still failing. Okay, so while we were doing all this, so this is the problem. The problem is async await SID generation. Okay. I think I know what I want to do, which is I want to divide our update function into 2 different update functions. We'll like do an update. We'll come out of that, do our SID generation where we can await it, and then do another update. You notice that, or you may have noticed that we have 2 updates in here. We're updating the IPFS store. We're updating the Sphere store. It shouldn't hurt to update the Sphere store twice and then do the await in the middle. Whew! Okay, with that being said, we are actually going to take a break. I'm at 2 o'clock right now, which means that I've officially hit the pause button for 1 full Pomodoro worth of time today during my 3 Pomodoros, because 3 times 25 plus 5-minute breaks, 3 times 30 is how many minutes? 90. And somehow we're looking at 120 minutes right now. So that means I've been hitting the pause button. I've hit the pause button for 25 minutes total across the last 3 Pomodoros. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break, and we'll come back. And I think I have a solution for the async await problem where we can divide that up into 2. So anyway, going to go take a deep breath, walk around outside. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to Coding with Jess, where we are now in our fourth Pomodoro, but we've already been working for 2 hours. So this may be an abbreviated Pomodoro as I try to solve this bug and wrap things up on the edit functionality. We'll see, depending on whether I have the energy to go for 2.5 hours here. We're about to jump in. I did notice EH in the YouTube comments asked a question about IPFS integration. He asks, is there expected fill, which stands for Filecoin, it's the symbol for Filecoin, ecosystem in the future? Sorry, is there expected fill ecosystem involved in the future? That's always been my idea around IPFS. And the short answer is, the very, very short answer is, I don't fully understand the relationship between IPFS and Filecoin. I know that Filecoin is built on top of IPFS. Both are part of Protocol Labs. Filecoin is the blockchain and IPFS is the protocol. I don't know. So one of my, again, I don't fully understand the relationship of those two things. In fact, one of my go research this questions, in fact, I might have it written right here. Yeah. On this sheet of paper where I was doodling about sort of spheres and that kind of stuff, I actually have the question, what's the relationship between FC, which in this case is Filecoin, and IPFS? I realized as I was digging into it that I don't fully understand that. So I need to do some digging to understand it better, but good question. It sounds like we're in the same headspace on that. All right, let's jump back in. One more Pomodoro. I think I have a solution now. We know this. Whoa. Something just weird just happened. Okay. I think the control key on my keyboard is, yeah, or shift. It appears that the shift key is, so shift J brings the previous line up. Okay, either the problem is in, weird. So my let's go try it in another place. Yeah, the shift key is like, oh. Oh my goodness, it's been that kind of day. Caps lock was on, which I usually have disabled on my keyboards. Like I intentionally turn off that key because I never ever use it. If caps lock is ever on, it's an accident. And that was what was going on, was it was an accident. And I haven't, for some reason, I haven't disabled caps lock on this keyboard. Anyway. Wow. What a day, what a day. Okay, so what we're planning on doing is, my concept here would be to split the updates into 2 separate updates and then have the async, and then create the new CID in the middle. So what would our 2 separate updates be? The first thing we need to do is get the old memo. So before we can, what do we need the updated memo CID for? The updated memo CID is needed once we've created the updated memo. So then what we'll need to do outside here is have a thing called let updated memo equals this. And in here we can update it. Oh, actually, I think I know I think I know a way around it. It's even simpler. Staring at this for a second, I think it's possible that our problem started when we made this async, and think it's fine to await in here, but this is a problem. Async is fine here. Updated content SID is fine here. All right, and then out here we'll have updated memo SID equals blah 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 blah. And that should now resolve. Oh, sorry, need a let here. Okay, so now what I'm going to test is yeah, okay, I got an idea. All right, so whoops, let's not make it bigger. Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, edit notes, blah da da da, edit note, sweet, that worked. Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, cat ASDF, wonderful. The content SID, the SID for this memo is wrong. Oh, right, we hid the SIDs. Where's that commented out? Current note. Did I delete it? Must have. I can bring it back right here by saying, which of these fancy buttons does it? Revert change. There we go. Save. Cool. There's our SID, which is not correct, or not a real SID, but it's everything's working. So then in here, let's move these two lines out and see if this works. Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, edit note, edit note. Doggone it. So reading the Sphere store, like you really can't read content from the Sphere store except for, well, we can do, all right, if that doesn't work, then we will divide this into two. So basically we need to get the old memo, create an updated memo. I guess we could do a subscription, right? Because that's the whole point of let sphere equal sphere store dot subscribe. Wait. Sphere equals this. We want a sphere store. Unsubscribe sphere equals that. Val. Sphere equals val. And then at the end of this function, we'll call unsubscribe sphere. All right, and then, wait, what? Why does it say this is not used? It's signed right there. Whatever. All right, then now in here, now we should be able to get the copy of these. And can make an updated memo. And then in the update, we update with the updated memo CID and the updated memo, and that should do it. Okay, let's see if that reading actually works. Bob's notebook, cat thoughts, endnote, da-da-da-da. Hey! Oh, still got the old CID. Oh, yeah. Yep, we don't want that updated memo CID. I think this is gonna work, y'all. I think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work. Updated memo CID equals await that. Oh, I can feel it. It feels really good. I know it. It's gonna work. Edit note. All right, Alice, cat thoughts. Yes, it works. Okay. Whew! All is not lost in the world. Now we can not change the sphere title to Alice. So apparently this subscription madness is what's needed in here to make it work. Whew! Okay. The very last thing here to getting this to work. We lost all our fancy comments, so I'm going to come in here and comment this function up again with like all the stuff that we have on the whiteboard over here. But I am late tired. And the last thing that I want to get working is I want the interface to automatically update, but just because I want to experience the thing working a few times, we're just gonna like create a couple notes and edit them just because we feel like it, because we can. We can now. Bob's notebook, here we go. This is Jess's happy note. Svelte store is totally evil, but we worked through it with the power of togetherness. Adding that note, there it is. Jess is happy. I left out an important note. JavaScript is also evil, which is probably why Svelte store is evil. C'est la vie. All right, we're gonna edit that note. Click edit. Hey, that's awesome. So the I don't know if you guys saw this, but the CID of the memo, or the CID of which is effectively the note, changed immediately. The content didn't change. So the very last thing I want to do is actually see if we can get the content to change dynamically. Notice that it is different when I go back to the listing. Yes. And one more thing that would be awesome is now we can use the parent CID to like walk backwards to the previous note, which is the whole reason that I wanted to do this, is so that I could actually walk between versions. We just didn't quite make it as far as I would have hoped. But all right, so let's see if we can get this one last thing working in our last 13 minutes here. This has definitely been a longer than usual stream, but I'm feeling more peppy than usual. Could be the actual caffeinated coffee that I had this morning. Normally drink decaf. All right, Jess is happy. If I click edit note. Okay, cool. Oh, interesting. I'll have to figure that out. So currently edit note is not my little fancy CSS isn't automatically expanding the thing at the very beginning when you click it. Hey, all in all, looking pretty good. Yes, so why is page.svelte not re-rendering the content automatically? Let's see if we can figure that out. One, I can now delete a lot of this. Edit note content looks good. Don't need that anymore. Oh, Chris, while I have you on here, I did have one question, which is, how does renaming notes work? So the idea here is that in cat thoughts, I have a note that's pointing to a link, and I can imagine two possible scenarios. One, that there's like an explicit rename where I say I want to point some other name to this memo, and I'm not doing anything to the memo. I'm just creating a different link, or I'm creating a different human readable name that's pointing to this memo. So that would be like an explicit rename without changing any of the content. That's option one, right? And it feels like a different thing than editing the note, or even editing the note title, because you're editing, in a sense, you are editing the note title. But if you edited the note title and the content at the same time, then I guess that makes sense. You would have a new link pointing to a new memo, and the old link would get deleted. Yeah, that's where things are a little fuzzy to me. And then like the memo would point back to, yeah, so there's like, I'm not going to implement that right now, but as I was working through this, the idea of changing the note title started getting weird to me. So Chris says, renaming is mainly a UX question for the client at this time. In subconscious, if a name is missing, it always shows something because there's a fuzzy matching between the slug and the content. So the slug and the content is fuzzy matching in subconscious. Gotcha. I think what he means is that when you like when you like go to a note, or go to like search for a note, well, search and go to are kind of the same thing in subconscious, because it's using sort of the notational velocity model, if people are familiar with that old editor. So you don't necessarily have to have a slug, but you'd have to have one in the sphere's links. Like, you can't get around it. You could imagine a client that crawls through backlinks and updates links. All right. I know myself well enough to know that I have been thinking about this far too long, or that I've been working far too long to actually have clarity to be able to think through the renaming problem. So I'm going to come back to that now that I've seeded it in Chris's head. And we're going to see if we can fix this one last thing, which is getting the note content to update automatically. This is the kind of thing that Svelte should make really easy for us. So hopefully we will be able to fix that quickly. So I think what we need is like let current note content equal let's see, it would be the sphere store yeah, okay, so I think it's current note content. I think it looks like this. Let current note content equal, I could do fetch note, but what I want to do is sphere store dot links current note gives me the CID. This is going to be one ugly thing, but I think this will do it. Sphere store dot notes, and then, well, and then any place we're doing fetch note should be here. Huh. These things all updated, right? Didn't we see these update? I know we saw the sphere. Ah, there we go. Okay, so we could use $sphere. Wait, I thought we... Okay, now I'm confused. So we have a manual subscription being set right here on the Sphere store, Sphere subscribe thing. So I think if I have a variable that's updated based on that, which would be the current note content, let's just make that one change for now and then see if it works. That will be right here. And then we can look at changing out the other things too. Okay. Actually, I think that might need to be behind a, yeah. On mount, because that content doesn't exist yet. Wait. All right. Can tell my brain's getting a little fuzzy now. Fetch note content. Ah, yeah. This is going to give us the actual current note. Or this would be like the current memo. The current note content comes from IPFS. Duh. So then this would be current note content. We would get sphere notes. All of this dot content SID. That's like, gosh, that's ugly. Gosh. All right, now all the way back to the top level, Bob's notebook, cat thoughts. Current note content. Sphere links.current note would give us the SID to the memo. Notes would give us the SID, or sorry, notes would give us the memo, and then .content SID would give us the content SID of, and then look it up in IPFS, which we don't have a subscription on. No, we do. Right there. And then current content. What did I change here? Oy vey. Let's see. Okay, that's nothing. X. Let's get this back to a place where it's working. Clearly I've been coding for 2.5 hours straight because my brain is starting to get fried. Okay, there we go. Now let's uncomment out these 2 lines. Huh. So something about the sphere store. I'm a little confused, and I think I am going to call it here. Okay, so we made some good progress. We have edit working. Unfortunately, we don't have a UI. Yeah, okay. So, quick recap for today. We started out today talking about what is Noosphere, why I'm excited about it, what we are building, and what we're going to build today. And so if you missed that, feel free to go back to like the first just 10 minutes of the video where I walked through some of that stuff. We got edit working in the interface, which is awesome. So you can now edit existing notes, and it links back to the previous through the parent SID. We know it's working because we've seen it in the UI. However, it's still a little janky. And 2 things are wrong that I'm going to go and fix hopefully later when my brain's a little fresher. One is it should automatically update the notes, all the notes properties in the UI as soon as you click edit. That's not currently happening. You currently have to navigate back to the notebook and then navigate into the note again, and then everything's refreshed and magic. The second thing, which is way more fun, is I want the ability to walk backwards through previous versions of the note. Currently, the parent SID exists and it's pointing to the previous memo, but there's no way to get there in the current simulator. So the next thing will be sort of adding the visualization layer of the history of the note and being able to click through forward and back through the history of a note as you're going through it. So that's some things to come, but we made some good changes today and walked through a bunch of stuff. So thanks for hanging out on Coding with Jess for this extra long, extra painful Coding with Jess session working on the Noosphere simulator. It was a super ton of fun. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next Wednesday. I'll actually be in Portugal with the Fission team. So I'm not sure if I'm going to live stream or not next week. If I do, it will be from a new location. Woo! Maybe even a new time zone. We'll see. So thanks, folks. And Chris, thanks for hanging out. EH, and thanks for all the people that stopped by. And we'll see you next time on Coding with Jess.